So in today's video, I want to build a note-taking app in one session. So I'm gonna take my phone and set an alarm for 1.5 hours. And I'm just gonna start this timer and really hope that I get as much of it done as possible. So I'm gonna be using all the stuff that I use in all my videos, so all the libraries and everything. And hopefully the result is going to speak for itself. So let's try to figure this out together. So for the framework, aka library, I want to use Shadcn UI with TanStack Start. So TanStack Start, and I want this to be with Shadcn. And it seems like that there is already a way to build this. All right, so build a project from scratch. So I think in Quick Start, there is a basic example. This one looks good. So it's called Start Basic. Let's open the terminal. I'm using Ghosty for this. And let's also use split screen. So let's change the font size. And then let's go to my workspace. Actually, it's p/workspace. And let's run this first command. This is, I think, gonna copy this folder from the GitHub repository of TanStack. Yeah, and you just copy that folder. It's called Start Basic. So let's rename this. Move Start Basic. I'm gonna rename this to Notes for Devs. All right, let's open the terminal. Let's open Visual Studio Code in Notes for Devs. So this opened in another window. I'm going to bring this here. And let's switch to dark mode, of course. And let's run npm install. In the meanwhile, I'm going to bring the browser here. So it's installing all the dependencies. Here we have everything set up, even git ignore. So that's great. You know what? Let's also initialize git since we're at it. Git init, git add all. Let's see what we have here. So all these files, it's great that we already have so many routes actually I've seen right now. So that's not bad at all. So first commit. Great. So it seems like npm install is also finished. So npm run dev. All right. So we already have a multi-page application set up for us. That's awesome. So let's go back and set up Shadcn. So I'm just gonna add Tailwind. I need to create a post CSS config. All right. So post css.config ts. Create app.styles.appcss. All right. So v Actually, we already have this app.css. I think the path here is not completely correct because we have a source folder, and here it's shown app.styles, and it has this import TailwindCSS. Let's add this one here and see if it works. Maybe we do need to create that folder, so let's just create a new folder. Gonna be app. Does not make sense to me. I'm not gonna do that. You know what, let's just skip this one and check out this root, I guess. So this is route/root. It's here. And I'm seeing if there is a style sheet here already. So there is a style sheet and it's this app.css. And it comes from here, yeah. So I think the thing here is that we already have Tailwind installed, and I'm sure that this is the wrong version. Let's look at Tailwind. I'm not sure if any of this is actually relevant. tsconfig.json. Paths seem to be, so all the paths seem to be a bit wrong here. So I'm really wondering if this is wrong. Maybe I should have followed build a project from scratch. That would have been better. It's a lot of manual stuff. Is there a quick sort here? That's the one that we did. I'm not actually liking it. You know what, let's just try to set up the rest of the stuff and see if it works without even worrying too much about the CSS. So let's just try to add Shadcn right now. Yes. This does not look good at all. So I'm not liking this start basic template because it already has TailwindCSS in it, and I think that's the previous version, it's not version 4. So I think we're gonna have to start a new project and just configure it from scratch. So let's just get out of here. I'm gonna rename this again. So notes for devs, and I'm gonna call it notes for devs old. And let's try again. So make directory notes for devs, and then let's open it. So okay, we're already in it actually. So npm init. And then we can add our TypeScript config file. Oops. So npm init here inside the correct directory, and now we have our package.json. Let's create a tsconfig file for TypeScript. Then I need to install these dependencies. So this takes a while, so you just have to wait. All right, now I'm gonna install the next ones and already copy this command for installing TypeScript and run it now. And now we need to add this type module to our package.json. So you can also already add these scripts and remove the old ones. Okay. So app.config.js. So touch app.config.js or TS. And here we can paste all this stuff. Great. Okay, now we need to set up our router. So let's create a new folder, call it app. And now this is correct. So in the first attempt, we didn't have any app folder, and that was the problem. So new file, router.tsx. This route tree generated file is not there yet, but that's not a problem. It's going to be generated later. And then we need to add an SSR endpoint or file. So touch ssr.tsx. This needs to be inside our app. All right. And then we need the client entry. So new file, client.tsx. Just gonna copy this stuff over. Great. And now we need to create our route, I guess. So we need inside our app, we need a new folder called routes. And this is all the paths that the user has access to. And here, let's just create a route.tsx. And this is gonna be wrapping everything, all our application. As you can see, these children. And this is basically where everything is gonna be. So this outlet component is where all the other children routes are going to be in. So here we have the stuff that we can use globally. So we have our CSS stuff, the title, and this kind of global head information. Great. Writing your first route. Let's go ahead and just copy this just to have a working example. And so that was index.tsx. We have this now, and let's run npm install. I think we didn't need that, but npm run dev, and let's hope that it works. Okay. And it does seem to work, and this is great because we already have a server-side function here. So we have this counter that is saved inside this file, count.tsx. And we have this server-side function, and this actually updates the count, which is great. So perfect. I think we have TanStack Start already set up, and I think I should turn this into a public repository for my next projects, because I need because I actually want to work with TanStack Start a lot. I want to do some more videos about it, and I'm not in the mood to set this up from scratch every time. So git init, git add all. Ooh, maybe I should cancel this. We need actually a git ignore file, otherwise we're gonna commit all our node modules. So you know what, let's just remove this git directory to unset git, and I'm gonna copy the git ignore from the other project. So nodes for devs old that git ignore. I'm just gonna copy it here, and this has node modules, which is one of the most important things, but also other files we don't wanna commit, like environment variables, which is something that we're going to use later. So now we can git init, git add all. So now we just have 11 files that are actually staged, and I'm gonna create a first commit. So first commit. All right. Now that we have our TanStack app set up, I'm gonna go back to Shadcn and try to install it this time for real. So installation, TanStack Start, and let's just get started. So install TailwindCSS, and now we can have this post.css file.
A few moments later.
Okay, another problem I think is that we don't need here CJS, but it needs to be TS. That was maybe the problem that we had. So let's try to start it again. So npm run dev. All right, finally, wow. And it's still working. Perfect. Wow, that was not an easy setup. And I should definitely publish this as a repository. So, perfect. Let's just commit everything and call this setup Shadcn UI. All right, good. So it took me half an hour to actually set up this project. So I'm already thinking maybe I did go over my head, and maybe we will not come to implement everything that I had in mind. But still, let's give it a try. So what I want to have is first a landing page, and this is going to be this root here, index.tsx. This is our landing page. And then I want to have a new subpage, and this is going to be called notes. And here we're going to have an index file. This is when you visit /notes, and then we're going to have another file for an individual note. I'm going to give this an ID, .tsx. Great. So here, this should be our landing page, I guess. So I'm gonna make a copy of this page, and I'm gonna call this example because I want to keep this so I can look it up how it's gonna actually look like, how we create these server functions. So let me right now just delete all this stuff that we actually don't need, and also don't need a loader. And this is going to be a normal static page. So just remove everything from here. Just have a div and an h1 element, and let's call this notes made for developers. Okay, I'm receiving another error. I think in this example, we need to update here. It should not be index copy. It should be called example. Let's restart this. Let's center this grid, place items center, or item center, I'm not sure. And let's have a button here, get started. Let's make this text a bit bigger. So text XL or XXL, just XL. And font bold. Give this one a height of screen. And maybe we do a flex instead. And align center, items center, and flex call to make it vertical. This should be justify center, I think. Okay, looking better. Let's also give them a gap of 4. And make this button a bit smaller. Let's make it small. All right, maybe you can add an icon here. I think right now it's not that important. So when you click here, you should land in /notes. And for that, I can import the link component from TanStack. But which one was this? Router, I guess. It's going to be 2/notes. So I'm going to click here. I land in notes, which is great. So inside our notes, so already start to think we need to somehow render a list of notes. And then when you click on each one of those notes, you're going to land in that notes page. So let's jump to our notes index file. And let's for now just copy and paste this part. Or maybe not. So I'm just going to create a few dummy notes. So notes, and this is going to be an array. Each note is going to have a title. So title 1. And maybe an ID. And it's going to be 1. And let's make, I don't know, 6 copies of this. And change the number here. All right, and now we can just display them. So H1, it's going to be notes. And then we can show our notes. So notes/map. And for each note, we can show a div. let's give it a key of node.id. And here we can show the node name. So node.title, I guess. Not bad. Maybe we can add a bit of padding. So P4. And let's see if actually Shadcn has a list element that we can use. So list does not seem like it. I mean, there is this blocks part that we could use, but I think for now we're good. Just like this. And so here instead of, so I think what makes sense here is to make this clickable. So I'm also going to wrap them inside a link element. And this is going to be 2. And this is going to be node/id. And now we need to pass this ID parameter. ID is node.id. And let's give this a class name and make it on hover blue. I don't know why I'm not getting TailwindCSS recommendations here, but it's fine, I guess. I think we need to move this class name inside the link component. And I think we don't even need this div that is wrapping it. So let's just pass it here and remove this div. All right. And maybe we do put a div element inside of it. That way we have this line break. Okay. So if I click on this, I land in node/1. And now in our /id, we can show our node. So let's first grab this parameter. So route. Or maybe we just try to build some kind of nodes editor or markdown editor. So we're going to have a title for sure. And let's see here what we have for components. Input. Yeah, I think we can just use a normal input element for that. So we need to import this. I think I need to close my Visual Studio Code and reopen it because it seems like this suggestions is not really working. So let's start the server again. npm run dev. And now I'm going to jump back to this ID file. And let's see. Again, I'm getting an error right now. Yeah, okay, we need to import this input. Still not getting the suggestions, so I guess let's do it manually. /component/UI, I guess. /input. All right. So placeholder is going to be a title. And type, we can just remove it for now. And let's give this a bit of padding. Just 2. Actually, we need to somehow have here a markdown editor. So let's see if we have anything here. Markdown. So no, I'm going to search for React Markdown editor. And let's see what we have for options. I actually want something like what you see is what you get. And this is not the kind of user experience that I want to have. Let's see, how was the demo of this one? Actually, it's the same one. So this is looking not that bad, actually. That's good. MDX editor. All right, let's install this one. So we need to somehow import it and the stylus CSS file. We can do that. And okay, that's a lot of stuff to set up. Okay. See the Vite guide. Oh, that's way simpler. Okay. So let's add this here. And also import this plugin. All right. And let's start this again and see if it works. So we have an editor here. And so there are a lot of plugins and I'm not sure if they're all super useful right now. But I'm going to try to just import them all and use them all and see what works. I think this is something we can also improve in the future, but doesn't need to be perfect to begin with. Okay, actually it is working. You can underline and have some bold text. This part is not working. Add in a headline. That's very bad. I wish it would do it automatically. Let's see if this is working here. Yeah, it is working here. So I think there are some plugins that we are missing. I think I'm not going to invest too much time in this right now, but I know it's possible since they showed it in the documentation. So I'm just going to move on now. Let's just style it and make sure that it works full stack. And then we can go and try to make it better looking. All right. So is it possible to pass in a class name? Yes, perfect. Let's give it a border and make it rounded, small or medium. And let's make the container into a grid, hide screen, and let's give it some grid row rules. I just want to have min content and then the rest should fill the page. All right. And now we only need to add a gap of 2. And now we have our component looking pretty good. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and introduce some state so that we have control over the data. So use state, and this is going to be type. Let's not use types yet, but this is going to have a title and it's going to have a content field. So this is title, and the content, let's just go ahead and give it this hello world. something like that. And we can pass in the markdown here, so content. So note and set note. And the markdown, I'm gonna pass in the note dot content, and on change, not bad. This is giving us this markdown as a string, which is perfect. So markdown, and let's just set the note. And I'm just gonna spread the previous value. So note and then markdown. So the content is gonna be markdown. And just to make sure that we don't overwrite this value if the user types too fast or something like that, I'm gonna pass in this previous value for n, something like that. So now if you start writing, this is perfect because it's just working. Awesome. And now comes the title. So let's pass in the value here of note.title, and on change e, and here we can do the same thing. So set note e dot, so we need to spread the previous value. So n, and pass in the title, and this is going to be e dot target dot value. Okay, so title, and you can write stuff, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm liking it. I think we can go ahead and add a back button and maybe also a save button, something like that. That would be pretty cool. So let's just go ahead and add a div for that. And I'm gonna make this a flex. And here we can have our back button, so button. And let's check out which icons we have here. So I think we're using here Lucid icons. That's good. Icon chevron left. Can work with that. So chevron left. Roving focus group item must use. What is this? It's a really weird error. What if I remove this icon? I'm not sure what's happening right now. It's a very weird error. So let's start again. So this is somehow coming from this MDX editor, which is so weird because it was working really good right now. And I'm not sure what changed at all. So if I remove this MDX editor, see, I have this error. Oh, apparently this button is imported wrongly, and yeah, that's the case. That was not good. So button comes from our own component and not from this MDX editor. Okay, this is better. So we're back at our flex component. Let's give it some gap of 2. And let's give this one another variant. Let's make it a link maybe. Not bad. And let's wrap this inside a link component from TanStack. And this is going to be 2. Nice. Maybe we can add another save button at the end here. I'm not sure if that's the best looking UI, but why not? Yeah, let's just add another button at the end. And call this one save. And let's just remove this variant so that it's like the default. All right, this is looking not that bad. So of course nothing works right now, so we need to somehow save, be able to save this node. And also here we need to be able to create a new node. And let's just go ahead and I guess change the layout here and add an add button. And that way it's easier to create a new node. So let's wrap these inside a div. And in our top bar, also gonna add another div for this. So it's gonna be a div here. And I think that Shadcn has a top bar, has a sidebar for sure. Okay, so that's something we can use maybe later, I would say. But for now, I'm just gonna stick with this easy solution that I'm having here. Let's give it a class name, border bottom of 2. And let's get rid of this padding here, add it here. And of course here, so class name. And let's make this a flex. Align or justify between. And now I'm gonna add a button. Add note. Plus icon. Just like that. Okay, so I have our button here. You're gonna click on it. It's a bit too big, so let's make the size smaller. And justify between. Align center. Or item center. Yeah. All right, so now it's all in one line. Not that bad. And when you click on a node, you have this node edit UI, basically. So let's go ahead and yeah, try to commit this. And then we're going to try to implement this full stack so that the nodes are actually saved and you can really create a new node. All right, so let's add everything. And basic UI. That's a good commit name, I guess. And now let's try to set up something like Prisma. So let's see what they have, what kind of database they have in TanStack Start. So authentic databases. Blah, 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 blah. So they do have a few recommendations. There's this neon one. Looks not that bad actually. It's serviceless Postgres service, I guess, that you can use. And then there's convex. You can check out this convex one. I've heard of it before, so it should not be that bad. Okay, so they have their own paradigms here with mutations and queries and stuff. And how is neon looking? So I was actually thinking about using something that Netlify has to offer, because I was thinking of publishing this in Netlify, so we can check out if they have some databases, something we can use directly here. And let's just search for Netlify database. Okay, so they have a lot of options here. Have Prisma, and let's just try it out, I guess. Enable integration. Let's log in with Google, with GitHub. Okay, install. So I already have an old project here. Let's create a new one. Actually, don't want to create a team, but okay, whatever. Okay, so there's this team from Saxophone tour, which I guess we have to continue using right now, but it's fine. So let's just go ahead and go back to this database here. We had this Prisma enable. It's already installed. All right, I guess we have to generate some tokens. Okay, so I'm seeing actually that I don't have that much time left, and I'm not sure if this is the smartest move to actually implement databases. So what we can do is first add the endpoints and use them in the UI, so we can just store stuff in a file, I guess, in a folder. And once we have that working, we can just swap the functions inside these server-side functions, and that way we save the stuff in the databases instead of inside the files. So I'm gonna come back to our example. I have opened so many stuff here. Let's just close this and localhost 3000. And here we have our examples. So we're gonna save this as a normal JSON file, I guess. So let's create a folder and call this notes. This is all gonna be locally right now. And let's create a few examples. So if I go back to our examples inside this index file, I can just take this. So I can just take this part here. Okay. So maybe you can just have maybe I'm not sure here, but it would also make sense to just have one file for now. And just call it notes.json. And here I'm just gonna have all our notes. So let's go back and copy them. All right. And we can save the notes there. So we can come here and create a new server-side function. So for that, I'm going to use this example that we had. So let's just copy this part here. All right. Let's import these. All right. So it's going to be read notes. And the file name is notes.json. So notes.json. And we're just going to read the content of this file. So here we want to have method get. And I'm going to call this get notes. It's going to be read notes. And this should return, I think also define a type. This is going to have a title, which is a string, and a content. And let's just say this is going to be a list of notes. So note array. And of course, we need to JSON parse this part. So JSON parse all this part. And this is going to be a node array. So you have get notes, and we can use this in our loader. So let's just remove this part here. Apparently we should call it somehow different. Let's see how it's done in the example. It's async await, so we need to await it. And here it's going to be get notes. All right. Let's comment out this code here. And to use this loaded data that we loaded from the backend, we can just use loader data, which is cool. So just come back here. This is going to be notes. All right. Now let's reload the page and we have our notes. So if I come to this notes.json and change the first title to title A and reload the page, you can see it here. So it's really loaded from this file. That's nice, but I think we need to export all this stuff or put it in a different file. That way we have all our logic in one place. So let's just come back here and create a new folder. Let's create this folder and call it server. New file, index.tx. And let's just copy all this stuff over there. Optimize the imports here. Optimize. Okay, this is not working here. It's fine. And now we can just delete all this stuff from this file. And we should just make sure that we export everything. So export this function. get notes, and let's create another one, update note. And this is just going to receive a note, and this is going to be a item of note. So actually I'm not doing this in a very type safe way, so anyone can pass in any parameter and really make a mess. But since right now we're just getting started, we cannot set up everything at once. So I think this is gonna work just fine. So this is still working, and when I click on an item, we want this to be pre-filled with the content of that note. So let's go back to our server. And let's change this to get, change this to get note. And this is gonna receive an ID, and this is gonna be a number or a string, I guess. And let me go back to our notes. I'm noticing that we don't have an ID yet, so let's just add an ID. And let's grab some random UIDs, random UID. And let's add them to our notes. So this will actually already have the IDs that I've seen right now, but what is missing is the content field. So let's add that one. I guess we can leave these numbers for now. And let's change this to, no, we can leave the title first, and this one can be content. And same here. Can rename this to content of note A. And let's add a new line and hey there, and some bold text. And let's just hope that this is shown in a beautiful Markdown soon. All right, so we have our get notes, or now we need our get note, and this is gonna return this get notes. And we should find the note that ID is equal to data. So data in this case is the ID. Okay. We also need a create new node, so let's add that as well. So create new node. And for this, we need to actually save these nodes. So I'm gonna read the nodes. So we need to push, so nodes.push. And here we can add a few things like the ID. So crypto random UID. Title, we can have title, and content just gonna be an empty string. And now we can save the notes. So save notes and pass in these notes. Let's create a function for that. So we just have an async function that writes in this file, and here we can JSON stringify our notes. Looking good. And since we're at it, we can also update these notes. So instead of adding a new item, we can find that item. So new notes. And here we can just map these existing notes. So and we check if the node.id is equal to data.id. Then we're going to replace it with this new data. Otherwise, we're just going to leave the existing node. And let's just hope that this actually works, because this is just a lot of untested code. And I guess we're going to find out soon. Let's go ahead and just use them in the UI. All right, so we were in our index file and we were showing our nodes. So let's just go ahead and come back to this page. So now when we click on add node, we need to call that function, and let's check out again how we're doing it in this example. We had this update count. And it's interesting, this is just used directly in this, this function, which is great. Which means here we can have on click, this is going to be create new node. And here, of course, we don't need to have an ID and all this data as well, because this does not have any parameter. And then we can do then, and then when it's created, we're going to receive hopefully something from the backend. Let me check what we have here. So we just save the notes, and we should return this new item as well. That would make sense. So let's create a variable for that. So I'm going to call this new node. And we're going to add this. So going to await this save note, and then we can just return the new node. And actually we need to await this everywhere. All right. So then we're going to receive the new node here on the other side, which is awesome. And then we can just redirect. And this should be actually typed. So if I click on new node.id, yeah, it's already typed, which is amazing. So we just need to navigate to the new node ID page. So we can just have a use navigate hook. And when we create a new node, I'm going to click on new navigate. And here we need to pass in 2, and this is going to be /nodes/id. And of course, we should also provide the ID. So here we can pass in. I'm not sure what it is called. Is it called path? No. Property params is missing. So params, and here the ID, and this is going to be new node.id. Okay. So let's create one add node. All right. So we are now in this /node/ this huge ID. This is the new node ID, which is amazing. And now what we need to do is to load the data and display it here. So we need to load the node here. So let's go back to this $ID path, and here we can have a loader again. I think I'm really getting into the flow here, working with TanStack Start. As you've seen in the beginning, I was really struggling to just set it up. But once you have it set up, and I'm also going to publish a public repository for that, the way of working here is just so easy. And yeah, I'm really blown away. The developer experience is awesome. Just being able to jump back and forth from the front end to the back end, something that I'm not taking for granted because I've seen how it can be. In reality, in most applications, it's not that easy. You should create a backend, generate stuff, and then use them in the front end. It just takes a lot of time. And here you're just able to jump back and forth between both the front end and the back end. It's just amazing. So coming back here, we can call our function. So async, and we can await our get note. And here we need to somehow grab this ID that is coming from the parameters. So this loader, I'm sure it has something like params, which is awesome. Something just expected to be there, and it is there. It's just really thought through. And this ID of type string is not assignable to blah, 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 blah. I guess get note. And here we need to pass in data, and then it's going to be params.id. Okay. This should work right now. So let's go ahead and grab this inside our component. So route that use loader data, and this is going to return the note. And let's just rename this one for a moment and see if this actually works. So localhost 3000, need to start the server. So get started. Let's click on title A. And as you can see, this is the content that we wrote inside the file. Go back and click on title 7. Here you go, content of note 7. So it's all read from the file that we have there. This is really cool. So let's go ahead and store this inside a new variable, not note. Let's call this initial note. And this is going to be the initial value of this use state. This should still work right now. And then when we click on save, let's create a new function on save click. And here we can update the node. So update node and pass in this node value. Type undefined is not assignable to blah, blah, blah. Okay, the same problem again. So the data is this node. It's going to return the updated node. And just to be sure, we can update this node here. So update the state with this updated node. And actually we just return, we don't need to have a return here because it's the same data anyway. Let's just remove this set node here. All right. So type undefined is not assignable here. Here we can make sure that the node is actually loaded. All right, so we have our node here, and let's rename this to title 70 and add a 0 here. Click on save. Okay, we don't see any update on UI, but if I reload the page, it's still not there because we did not bind this here. So on save click, on click, and pass it here. Reload the page, add a 0 in the title, and here, click on save. Update the page, still not working. Let's see, what kind of error do we have? So node is possibly undefined. I'm not sure if this use loader data Yeah, okay, so we have this get node. I think this is where the problem comes from. Here we have a find, and this may return undefined. So let's create a new variable for that. And return note. And if there is no note, just throw new error. I'm actually not sure what's the best way to handle errors in TanStack Start, but I think this should do the job for now. And here you can return the note. Okay. So we don't need to have this if statement. And we don't have to. Great. So 70, click on save. Reload the page, still not there. I'm actually eager to know what is happening in the backend and why this is not updating. So let's check out the console if we have any error. We do have a few errors, but it's not related to our stuff. So yeah, on save click, update note. So here we get this node data and let's console and log this data here and see what we get. Maybe we do need to restart the server. Let's try now, save. I'm getting a lot of errors here. Can't perform a React state update on a component that hasn't mounted yet. Okay. What if I comment this part out? It's still there. I'm not sure what's the problem here, but let's take a look at the example that we saved from before. And here we have this update count on click. And then we have this router that invalidate. Let's have a console log here. So title 70, click on save, and the event is somehow not working, and that's because I actually put this in the wrong button. So this onClick handler should not be here. It should be here. That have saved a lot of time. Okay, click on save. Now I'm seeing the console log here and there, and if I reload the page, you can see that the data is there. And if we now open this, where is it again? Notes.json. Okay, this is not very well formatted. If I format it, then you should see here we have our note saved. So theoretically, I can just come here and just keep adding new notes. My latest note, click on save, go back, and you have it here, which is just amazing. Okay. Now, I was originally planning on really making this into a full stack application, but some stuff happened during development. It's funny how some stuff that you expect that would not actually take that much time actually take way more time, and other stuff go way easier than you would expect. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, 1.5 hours, a bit over time, but I'm happy with the result. I'm also going to share this on GitHub if you want to check it out yourself. And yeah, that was actually learned a lot about how to set up Shadcn project from scratch, which is not that easy, but also about how to work with TanStack Start. Of course, I really just scratched the surface. There's a lot to learn, especially when talking about like how to deploy this application, how to work with databases, authentication, maybe add some AI features to help you write your notes. The component that is responsible for the Markdown could also be improved a lot. So yeah, there are a lot of stuff that could be improved, but I'm really happy with this first version, this MVP version. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I would be really surprised. Anyway, yeah, thanks for staying until the end, and see you in the next video.